All right, now we've got him, the Hawk. Mr. Hawkinson, former mayor of Bismarck, joins us live from our KFYR studios in Bismarck. This is the gentleman. I love the passion. This is fantastic. Mr. Hawkinson, first off, thanks so much for joining us, sir. Love the gear.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Let's get right to this. You obviously have registered some trade names thinking, hey, you know what, I'm going to stop President Kelly until he at least puts North Dakota back on the list. You say in this article you even hope that, hey, we at some point get back to the Fighting Sioux. But UND spokesperson Peter Johnson says, and you know what, no matter what this gentleman does, he can register all the names he wants. It's not going to stop UND from utilizing the current nickname list. When we come down to it legally, is Peter Johnson right, or do you have a shot in this thing?
I think I've got a shot at this thing, and then I can put my sign up on my street.
And you're going all out for this thing.
Oh, yes. And wear my Fighting Sioux jacket. And just so that everyone knows, of course, I graduated from NDSU.
Well, we know the big game coming up. In fact, we're going to be breaking it down in a moment. But I want to get to the serious part of this because it sounds like you're playing for keeps here. So what's your strategy as you register these trade names to ensure that UND does not get access to them? Because here's the thing. You registered them under real estate and personal use. And as obviously Peter Johnson says in the article, well, we don't really have any intention in using those names for real estate or personal use.
Well, my personal usage would be, as I did in my gas station years back, I sponsored teams, I started up teams, sporting good teams, and that's what I would use them for in the future. So I'd be in direct conflict with them and their sports programs. So I think he's got to listen to that point of view also. The problem is that President Kelly is not listening to the people up there and the people that are the spokesmen for all of the students and et cetera that want North Dakota on the ballot. And if he would just put it on the ballot, you know, that would solve all of the problems that he's now facing with me.
So if President Kelly comes out and says, okay, we're going to put North Dakota back on the ballot, you then will open up these registered trade names, and obviously it won't matter at that point, but then you think obviously North Dakota is going to be the people's choice?
I believe that very firmly.
You also come out and said in your piece, and this is where I want to wrap things up with you, but you said, hey, look, I believe that by doing this, I've got a legitimate shot, maybe not in your lifetime, but at some point to get the name to go back to being the Fighting Sioux. We all know where the NCAA stands. How in the world do you see that happening?
Well, I think sometime in the future, you're going to see the NCAA go away. They're like a gorilla in a jewelry store, the way they treat teams and the way they've treated North Dakota. And I just don't think that they're using their brains properly. I think that when Spirit Sioux Nation gave their okay to the University of North Dakota to use the name, they should be allowed to use it. And I think that the NCAA is interfering where they're not needed at all.
I know, but you and I both know Standing Rock is not obviously signed off on this deal. Last question for you, sir. You went to NDSU. You're sporting the UND gear tonight. Who wins on Saturday, and what's your score prediction?
Well, I think that NDSU is going to win. I would say it's probably going to be about 15 points, 39 to 24. Nice.
Nice prediction. Mayor Hawkinson, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Please keep us abreast as this UND nickname chapter continues, okay?
You bet. Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate that very, very much. With me now in studio, co-host of the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show, Alex Egan.
Off and you forget the name?
Dude, I'm sitting here going, man, I might be out of a job because I predicted 2 touchdowns myself, and he just nailed it right there. So they might be like, Berg, we don't need you anymore. We're going to go with Mayor Hawkinson and Alex.
Well, we'll bring him in here. We'll see what he can do.
So let's look at this game. I think you and I actually were just talking about the key aspects in this game are what, in your opinion?
Well, I think that the big thing is North Dakota's rush defense has been lights out. They have given up just 67 yards through 2 games, just 67 yards on the ground to a Wyoming
one of the teams
offense.
was like Fargo South. I mean, come on.
But a Wyoming offense, a Craig Bowl team, got 29 yards against them. That's an impressive stat. On the road at an FBS stadium to only get 29 yards rushing, that's unbelievable. Drake picked up a couple more yards, but still, to only give up 67 yards on the ground, I think is just one of the paramount trademarks, if you will, of this UND offense or defense, and that's going to be what NDSU's offense is going to have to figure out. Now, we all know that NDSU's offense can move the ball at will, it seems like, at times. So that, to me, is the matchup that I'm most excited about. I mean, never mind that it's UND, NDSU, but we're going to see a really good offense go up a really good defense.
Yeah, but one of the things also, if you look at the defensive stats, not many teams have obviously converted on third down against these guys. I think if NDSU can convert on third down, my point is that the UND guys down in the trenches probably have not had a ton of reps. All of a sudden, you start to convert some third downs. They get tired. They're not very big. Do we just wear them out at the end of the game?
Well, you're right. It's only 6 of 30 that opponents are getting on third down for against UND. So UND does a really good job of getting off the field and making sure that the defense is, you know, fresh throughout the entirety of the game. And I think you can kind of see that they do get worn down just basically just looking at their box scores over the last 2 games. They've scored 35 points and given up none in the first half. But then in the second half, they've given up 31 points and only scored 10. So you can kind of see that the team is trending a little bit downward. Granted, that was against a Wyoming team that they were up real big at half, and then a Drake team that they were up real big at half. But they got comfortable, and Drake almost came back and won that game.
Well, that's the thing. Do you think they got into at halftime and thought, hey, we're up? What were they up 21-0, I think, at half against Drake, and said, okay, great, we won this game. Now let's focus on the Bison? Or what went down there?
Well, and that was kind of one of the questions that we asked head coach Bubba Schweigert at his press conference on Monday. Do you think the team got comfortable? And he said, I hope they didn't get comfortable. And he said afterwards, after the Drake win, it didn't really feel like a win in their locker room because they knew that they'd given up, 18 points and almost gave away the game. So I think that head coach Bubba Schweigert, he has elevated the expectations of UND football in just the year and handful of games that he's been there, that even with a win, it didn't feel like a win just because of how they won.
So here's what I want to know from you, because I think everyone walked out of the Wyoming game thinking, whoa, UND could be back. We could be looking at a very legitimate FCS Big Sky football team. Then they go out with Drake. They don't really do much there, 21-18. But also, the other side of the coin is Wyoming lost to, I think, Eastern Michigan, which is a horrible FBS team, at Wyoming. So where do you see this team at? Was the Wyoming thing like, okay, maybe it's not such a big deal anymore, or was UND back as a legitimate Big Sky contender?
Well, I think it's too early to tell. I mean, obviously Wyoming has not played very good football, and it's hard to judge, what UND did against Wyoming. Keep in mind, they'd never won against an FBS team. They were on the road. It's the opening weekend. Everybody's excited to play that opening weekend. So it's hard to say, how bad Wyoming actually is and how much that win actually means for UND. But I mean, you went on the road and you won a football game in the FBS against an FBS team. I mean, it's nothing to shake a stick about. But what we have to remember, they're very young. UND is very, very young. They got a true freshman at running back, and he showed that he was a freshman last week against Drake, put the ball on the ground a handful of times, and fortunately UND was able to overcome most of those or recover most of those. And then they have a sophomore at quarterback who's only started in 6 games. So, I mean, you're looking at experience on the offensive side for NDSU with Carson Wentz and all those guys. I mean, you're talking about 5-year seniors, 4-year seniors, where UND, they're kind of in the other direction. They're very young, but they're very talented as well.
You got to admit, though, Keaton's a stud.
Keaton is a stud, and he's done exactly what they've asked him to do.
Come on, man, have some fun with me.
Hey, I mean, he's done exactly what they've asked him to do, and obviously I think his future is very bright, and it'll be fun to kind of see his career path, versus a guy that he went to a few quarterback camps that's on the NDSU roster in Easton Stick. They know each other very well. So it'd be interesting to see how their career paths kind of go beyond this game.
Can the UND O-line move the NDSU D-line so Santiago can have some space to move?
We'll find out on Saturday.
Oh, I honestly don't know. Man.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's UND's O-line is very good. They're all really experienced and talented. There's a lot of experience on that UND O-line. They've had continuity through the first 2 games. Everybody that started is playing. So, I mean, that might be their strength on offense, is how good their O-line is. But I mean, UND's got a very talented defense, and they've got ball hawks that'll fly around, and they've got some D linemen that they can get in there and really disrupt things.
Yeah. Bottom line is, it's going to be a phenomenal game. Yeah. I mean, I cannot wait to see this North Dakota Super Bowl get back together. But one thing I said last night too, I love the demeanor of Coach Kleiman. I haven't watched, obviously, Bubba's as closely this week, but Coach Kleiman saying, look, at the end of the day, it's 60 minutes of football. I don't care if we're playing the Vikings, Fargo South, or UND. I got to go out and win a Missouri Valley Conference and national titles. That's what I get paid to do. Love that we're going to play him, but I don't get paid to win Big Sky Championships. So, Alex, great job. Want to remind everybody, 1:30 on Saturday on KBLY. You can watch Alex and I break it all down, plus DJ Coulter with some analysis as well on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison football pregame show. And then at 2:30, it is game time. NDSU taking on the University of North Dakota at the Fargo Dome. Again, you can see the full coverage in HD on KBLY at 2:30 p.m. this Saturday. Going to be loud, going to be a phenomenal, phenomenal game. My prediction is Bison win by 14. Quickly, you say what?
Yeah, I like that 14. I think it's a 3-score game.
All right, stay with us. When we come back, last night I had a great segment with Rob Port talking about the refugee crisis. Got a ton of great feedback on that. We're going to play that again. I'll give you some thoughts in the final view as well. And I always want to invite you to join our community. It's very easy to do. You can join our conversation lots of different ways. Want to know your thoughts on, hey, does NDSU beat UND or does UND beat NDSU? Call our hotline, leave us a voicemail. We'll be right back.